I hope all of you are fine. So, in this video, we are going to discuss history of billiards, and in when we play it on mobile, we mostly say it 8 ball pool. History of game of billiards as a pool. The game of billiards as a pool has long and rich history. It has been played by kings, commoner, president, ladies, gentlemen, and hustler alike. What is billiard and how did it all start? Billiards began as a lawn game similar to cricket played sometime during the 15th century in Northern Europe. It has since evolved into the present day style of billiards, pool tables, and rulers. The game moved indoor to a wooden table with a simple border around the edges and green cloth on the top to simulate grass. This is why green is considered the standard color. The term billiard is derived from the French language, either from the word billiard, one of the wooden stick, or billy a ball. Most of our information about early billiards come from accounts of playing by royalty and other nobles. It has been known as the noble game of billiards since the early 1800s, but there is evidence that people from all walks of life played the game since its inception. In 1600, the game of billiard was familiar enough to the public that Shakespeare mentioned it in his play Antony and Cleopatra. 75 years later, the first book of billiard rules remarked of England that there were few thousand of none, not therein with which had not a public billiard table. From Maze to Q, in the original game, when they first brought it indoors, the balls were shoved rather than struck with a wooden stick called maces. The cue stick was developed in the late 1600s when the ball lay near a rail. The mace was very inconvenient to use because of its large edge. In such a case, the player would turn the mace around and use its handle to strike the ball. The handle was called a cue, meaning tail, from which we get the wood cue. For a long time, only men were allowed to use the cue. Women were forced to use the mace because it was felt they were more likely to rip the clothes with the sharper cue. It must have been all the tricks shots they were trying to do. At some point, someone used chalk to increase friction between the billiard ball and the cue stick, even before cues had tips, and found significant improvement in their performance. Around the turn of the 18th centuries in Europe, the leather cue tip was developed, which allowed a player to apply side spin, top spin, or even back spin to the ball. A billiard pool cues used to be one single shaft until the two pieces cue arrived in 1829. The pool table, billiard pool table, originally had flat walls for rays, and their only function was to keep the balls from falling off. They used to be called bank because they slightly resembled the banks of a river. Billiard players discovered that the balls could bounce off the rails and began deliberately aiming at them, and therefore the bank shot was born. This is where the billiard ball is hit toward the rail with the intention for it to rebound from one cushion to as part of the sport, possibly even three, four, or five rails and into the pocket. Wood was the table bed of billiard table until around 1835 when slate became popular due to its durability for play and the fact that it would not wrap over time like wood. In 1839, Goodyear discovered the process of vulcanization of rubber, and by 1845 it was used to make billiard cushion as for the size of billiard table. A 2-to-1 ratio of length to width became standard in 18th century. Before then, there were no fixed table dimension. By 1850, the billiard table had essentially evolved into its current form. Billiard pool equipment improved rapidly in England after the 1800s, largely because of the Industrial Revolution. The talent of a professional pool player is truly amazing. Visitors from England showed American how the use of spin can make the billiard ball behave differently depending on what type and amount of spin you put on the ball, which explains why it is called English in the United States but nowhere else. The British themselves refer to it as side. The game of pool. The word pools means a collective bet or entity. Many non-billiard games such as poker involve a pool, but it was a pocket billiard that the name became attached to. Another interesting fact is that the term pool room now means a place where pool is played, but in the 19th century, a pool room was a betting parlor for horse racing. Pool tables were installed so patrons could pass time because races. The two became connected in the public mind, but the unsavory connection of the pool room came from being betting that took place there, not from billiards. The game of pool evolved with many different flavors in Britain. The dominant billiard game from about 70 until 1920 was English billiard, played with three balls and six pockets on a long rectangular table. The British billiard tradition is carried on today primarily through the game of snooker, which is a complex and colorful game combining offensive and defensive aspects and played on the same equipment as English billiard but with 22 balls instead of 3. The British appetite for snooker is comparable only by the American passion for baseball. It is possible to see a snooker competition every day in Britain.